Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and welcome to the first episode in our series, This is PowerPop. Each month I will throw out a PowerPop album to the panel for review. Next month we are taking a look at the Plimsolls' self-titled album from 1981. This episode, however, we are taking a look at the 1972 self-titled album from the Raspberries. The Raspberries were an American rock band formed in 1970 from Cleveland, Ohio. The members were known for their clean-cut public image with short hair and matching suits, which brought them teeny bopper attention as well as scorn from some mainstream media outlets as uncool. The group drew influences from the British invasion era, especially the Beatles, The Who, the Hollies, and the Small Faces, and its mod sensibility. In both the US and the UK, the Raspberries helped pioneer the power pop music style that took off after the group disbanded. The group's classic lineup consisted of Eric Carmen, Wally Bryson, Jim Bonfanti, and Dave Smalley. Their best known songs include Go All the Way, Let's Pretend, I Want to Be With You, Tonight, and Overnight Sensation. The group disbanded in 1975 after a 5-year run, and Eric Carmen proceeded to a successful career as a solo artist. But before we start, let's look at some upcoming and current programming on the channel. Next week, Davy Gallagher will join me for the first episode in our upcoming series, Shitty Albums. The first record under attack is Boston's 2013 album, Life, Love, and Hope. Also next week, Tom Fox will join me as we look at cheapie bin hauls we were able to obtain. It's always a good time to see what others have found in the bin, so I'm looking forward to this. Peter Jones and I just compiled a best of heart that went from 1975 to 1980. Stay tuned as Peter will join me once again as we look at their 1982 to 1993 catalog. Todd Evans, Reed Little, and I discussed our 2 favorite tear tracks off the first 4 albums. Please stay tuned as we look at Head on the Door, Kiss Me, and Disintegration next month. Check out our panel discussion on Obscure Albums number 4. This was just live streamed last week, and the panel had a blast. I thought this was going to be the last episode in the series, but the panel voted, and the series will continue. Stay tuned for more episodes in August. Ryan, Davy, Rand, and I looked at the Beach Boys' 1970 album, Sunflower. I want to thank everyone who showed up for the chat. This show was a blast. Stay tuned, because next month we are taking a look at Carl and the Passions. Todd Evans and I will be looking at the acclaimed Georgia band Guadalcanal Diary. We will be having a general discussion and having a look at their 4 Electra releases. This will be coming up in August, so stay tuned for that. Please like, subscribe, you know the thing. Let's get to This is PowerPop and the Raspberries. Armando, you got to leave it muted. You're going to throw the whole production into like a crisis.
It keeps going on.
That's because I'm doing it because you're causing feedback into the production.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's all right. We're trying to run a real clean ship here.
Okay.
Okay. No offense. Love you. Thank God you're here, though. Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. I want to welcome Todd Evans, Armando, and Reed here today. How is everybody tonight? You ready to talk some power pop?
It does no good to complain.
It's kind of like a power pop album. It's kind of like power pop.
Raspberries, yeah, it's straight up power pop.
It is, but this is our first episode in the whole series. So if anyone is just curious, I know Star's on here somewhere, wherever she is. What we're going to do every month, I'm just going to throw out a title and give everybody a month to soak it in, and then we'll come back and give a review. A lot of these titles I may never have ever heard before, so I'm just kind of throwing stuff out. It's just like not all these titles we're going to like. I don't know. The reason I chose this is because since this is the first episode and the Raspberries kind of started the whole power pop thing, I would say that this all started with Badfinger, probably the Raspberries, but you could even trace the beginnings of power pop back to the Who, the Kinks, the Beatles. Yardbirds, all that kind of stuff. That's where it really started. But with the Raspberries, the whole thing is like in the early 70s when Eric Carmen, he was playing in bands and doing stuff. And the guy's a brilliant musician, but he missed that whole era where all that Beatle type of the Beatlesque music, the Who, there was nothing like that going on. Basically, at this time, all we had was prog, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, stuff like that, and there was nobody doing that kind of stuff. The only other band that was doing anything like this probably were Big Star, and of course, when that came out, that totally tanked. I remember when I was a little kid, I remember going to a department store in my hometown, and of course, I had no idea what it was. Must have been 5 or 6, but I was like a record nut then. Okay. So I would just go through bins when I was a little kid. And I remember there was I'm going to say there was probably this many Big Star albums in the bin that were cutouts. Now, had I known what they were, if you would have bought those now, I can't even tell you how much those would go for. If those were all sealed copies of those Big Star records. I'm just telling you. But of course, that record was a flop, and it wasn't until REM and the bands, a lot of the Athens bands and a lot of the early 80s bands started to embrace this whole power pop thing. No one knew of Big Star until then. And I don't know so much about the Raspberries, but they're all part in there. They're all grouped together. But I think I'm going to start off tonight. And even though we are starting out with this first album, I just want to say I'm going to rate this album. I'm going to say that I would give this album 3 stars. It's the tracks that are wonderful, but the tracks that aren't so wonderful, I think pretty much are filler. I mean, let me bring up my sheet. I didn't have my sheet up, for crying out loud. But I mean, you start off with Go All the Way, which is a classic single. This actually was the second single that was released off the record. The first one that they released was Don't Want to Say Goodbye, and I don't think that really did very much. I mean, it's a fine song, but it's no Go All the Way, which is a classic Eric Carmen song. I mean, that reached number 5 on the U.S. charts, number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 4 in Cashbox. It was very successful. The single sold 1.3 million copies, and it only certified gold.
Okay.
But I'd say that's I mean, if we're looking at power pop, that is total power pop. The whole album, though, I would not really put it in that genre. If anybody's going to look into the Raspberries, I would tell them to look for like a best of, because I think as the Raspberries went on, I think they improved. By the time you got to side 3 and Fresh Raspberries, I think that more of that power pop thing came into play. But overall, I mean, the masterpieces on this album, I would say, would be Go All the Way, I Saw the Light, which was written by Wally Bryson, and the music's by Eric Carmen. I think I Saw the Light is absolutely flipping brilliant. Eric Carmen's vocals on here just absolutely sound wonderful. I mean, obviously, Go All the Way, I Saw the Light, I Don't Want to Say Goodbye is good. It's not up to the standards. Anything with Eric Carmen, I think he was so far ahead of the other band members. In fact, that's really what tore the band apart, is because he was so far out on another level than they were that it kind of destroyed the band. And, he ended up going solo and blah, 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 blah. But all the Eric Carmen songs on here, like Waiting, I can remember, even though they're kind of mellow, but man, the guy's just absolutely brilliant. I mean, his background, he was actually a child protege and was he studied classical. He was a classical pianist. I mean, if you listen to the piano on here, it's absolutely wonderful. But, he ran on a different level. And like I said, some people, like All Music gave this album 4 stars. Robert Christgau gave it a C+. Cream gave it a C. I think All Music's rating of 4 is pretty high. But
I would agree.
Yeah. For a debut album, you think it would be much stronger than it was. I mean, the Raspberries influenced a lot of people. Like I said, you think about what was happening in 1972. Nobody was doing anything quite like this. Hell, the Beatles hadn't done anything like this since 1966. So, I get what they're trying to do. Was it successful? No. And I would say I would give this record 3 stars. The other albums I think are way better than this. But I mean, what is good? Like Go All the Way and I Saw the Light. Absolutely brilliant stuff, I think. If they could have rallied and put together something more like that, I think it would have been better. But it is what it is. And, for this debut episode, I figured the first Raspberries albums would be appropriate for this. But if I was going to recommend anything to anybody, I would definitely tell people to look for the best of, because I think they were more of a singles band. Now, if you look at all their singles, they're all Eric Carmen songs. So he had the best stuff. The guy was brilliant. I'll just
tells you something right there.
Right. But anyway, we've got, here's Stars. Stars, of course, here. Everything's good. Ernesto. Nice that you could make it. Ernesto and Star are always here. It's always nice to see their smiling faces, even though we can't see them. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the record. It's a 3-star record. The highs are really high. The lows are, you obviously can tell what's filler here. They got better as they went along, but anybody looking for anything in the Raspberries, just looking for, actually there was a collector's choice CD on Capitol that came out in the 90s, which was absolutely just a wonderful set. Had some radio promos at the end of it. If you can find anything, I know it's out of print, but I would recommend that. But since we're going around the horn, let's just go. I'm just going to go Todd, Armando, and then Reed. Just going to, as I see it. Now, Todd, I'm ready. I can hardly wait for your review.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying, and then I'm going to try to explain, but I'm going to start off by saying I don't really like this album very much. I warmed up to it as I listened to it, a few extra times, but I think I just don't like Eric Carmen. Now, let me try to explain that for a minute.
That could be it. I get it.
I am the last person who is ever going to call a ballad sappy or complain about there being too many ballads on a record or something like that. But I really feel like Eric Carmen's stuff, and especially, I mean, this album is no exception, but especially on his self-titled Arista album is, right. I mean, on that Arista album, he made pretty much the quintessential sappy ballad all by myself. I mean, it's practically a punchline, and I love ballads. So I think that's my issue with it. But I do have to say, if this really is power pop in its infancy, I mean, if it didn't exist and they didn't know they were inventing it, me saying that it doesn't sound really all that power pop to me doesn't really mean much, because it wasn't a thing. So, I mean, I think that there's definitely some brilliance here kind of bubbling under. And so I'll kind of go through the album. Go All the Way, of course. I mean, it's a classic song. I remember it from when I was a kid. The chorus is great. But I almost kind of feel like the rock part of it that it kind of goes back and forth almost kind of doesn't fit it. And as a single, I sort of thought that the mix was kind of weird. I mean, I know we're talking about 1972, but there's something about it that just doesn't sit right with me.
Todd, that whole mix, the whole idea was to make it sound good on AM radio.
Oh yeah.
These are not audiophile.
Yeah.
There's a lot of compression.
That makes a lot of sense.
It's very muddy, but if you turn it on AM radio, back in that, which was the goal.
Yeah.
It pops right out of AM radio, but these records, they're very compressed, very muddy to some degree. You know,
that makes a lot of sense. But I want to move on. Come Around and See Me, the second track, is just kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
I Saw the Light, I think, is really good. I agree with Grant. I think that's that's the best song on the album, and I really warmed up to that one. Rock and Roll Mama is awful.
That's definitely filler.
Absolutely dreadful, and it's exactly the kind of song that makes me just go, nope, next.
Yeah, that was a Dave Smalley song, and most of his songs are kind of.
And I think his other song, Get It Moving, is almost as bad, but nothing on the album is as bad as Rock and Roll Mama.
Oh, we're gonna have a nice show tonight.
Waiting is okay.
Hey, we wanted the whole idea of this show is we want to be honest. If we're trying to turn people onto this,
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh no,
I'm
okay.
just saying.
That's all right.
Go ahead, Todd.
Don't Want to Say Goodbye. It's interesting because on Eric Carmen's solo album, I'm going to talk about that again. The two singles from that album, he went right on ahead and said that they were based on melodies from Rachmaninoff, which I totally get, and you know, I don't really like those songs, but they kind of work. But I kind of feel like whenever, and I felt this way when I heard Don't Want to Say Goodbye, I kind of feel like all of his ballady type songs kind of feel like they're lifted from something classical, and he may not be able to help that because of his background.
No, that's his background.
So I mean, that's a really nitpicky complaint. So but I just wanted to say, because that's what I feel when I hear those songs.
What's that, Armando? What'd you say?
I was just saying it's a valid complaint.
Valid complaint, yeah.
Yeah, they just kind of feel like maybe I've heard this before. I Can't Remember is a song that should really be right up my alley. I love 8, 9, 10-minute long songs that abruptly shift between different parts. I mean, Grant and I have talked about the Matthew Sweet masterpiece, Thunderstorm. And so I really like those kinds of songs. There's another kind of song like that Lindsey Buckingham did called D.W. Sweet, which I also absolutely love. But there's something about I Can't Remember. I feel like the changes are a little bit too abrupt, and I don't know. There's something about it when Eric Carmen goes into his rock and roll voice. I almost don't buy it. So I kind of have had a rocky road with this album the last week or so, and but you know, I can see the beginnings of PowerPop in it, and I think even though I think it's less of a matter of Eric Carmen not being a good artist and more of a matter of I just don't care for him. So I don't want to, give them too bad of a rating just because of that. But I would say that this album is a 2.5-star record.
Fair enough. I totally get it. This is part of the reason I've recommended get the best of or the capital. I
thought I'd like it more. I really did. And when you suggested it, I was like, oh, I've never really dove into that other than Go All the Way. This will be fun. And it really wasn't that fun.
With the Raspberries, either you are really all into everything or you're not. What highs are there are really high, but what lows are there, they're really low. And no one could keep up, whether you like Eric Carmen or not. The guy can write songs. He's so far ahead of all the other band members. Is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of contrast in between tracks.
Yeah.
This record doesn't sound like a cohesive record. It just sounds like a bunch of songs on a record.
Well, and Clive Davis went after him to make that solo album because he thought there was potential there, and he was right. And I mean,
he had some hits.
You could view that as Clive Davis went after him so that he could cash in on him. That may be part of it too.
But I mean, Eric Carmen, the last thing he probably did was on what was the song that was on Dirty Dancing?
Hungry Eyes.
Hungry Eyes.
That's a pretty good single, actually.
And even back in the day, song. I didn't realize that was Eric Carmen. But
had no idea.
Yeah, that's Eric Carmen.
I mean,
that was like the last hit he had.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different than this stuff. The thing with the Raspberries, it's much more. When he went solo and did all that, it's way more commercial than any of this stuff on here. Even though a lot of this you could look at as commercial, but then a lot of it's kind of still stuck in that 1960s Beatles type of, songwriting. Vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one positive thing that I would say about it is it coming out in 1972. I forgot to mention that I feel like even though it's from 72, it's a little bit dated. I feel like it's more of a 68, 69, 70 kind of a thing.
That's what they wanted to do.
But it's kind of a breath of fresh air for an album to come out and have it be a band like this to come out and have it be really sweet sounding. I mean, that I almost feel bad saying that I don't like it for that reason. Because the concept is, I understand and I get.
Why do you feel bad? It's your opinion. It's what you feel.
It just seems like something I should like better, but I just have to be honest.
See, Todd, now you sound like me on the U2 series when I give a harsh review to a U2 album and I have to look at Davy in the eye, and then I feel like he's judging me. But if we don't do these, we have to let people know what we think, and that's all it is.
I guess what I'm trying to say is normally I would like something like this more than I like this.
Fair enough.
Just a good version of it.
Yeah, a better version. Yeah.
There's just not enough quality There's not enough quality material here to make an album. Is how I look at it.
No.
Though there might be, I'm just going to say there might be some people out there that absolutely love this record. I mean, I can listen to it and it doesn't bother me, but every time I get it to a Dave Smalley track, I just go,
poor guy.
Wally Bryson doesn't bother me so much, but when I get to Dave, love you, Dave, but just not happening for me. Eric Carmen is way above everybody else, that's all. So, Ernesto, do you have a Raspberries 8-track or not? Star's laughing at our reviews. Evidently.
He said he might.
Star, what? Evidently, you know the Raspberries. Put in the comments your thoughts on this. So, Todd, I'm sorry. I gave this a 3 out of 5. You're giving this what? Let's do out of 5.
A 2.5.
We're not that far off.
Yeah, he gave it a 2.5. Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to. You have anything else to add?
No, that's it.
I think that's a fair review. See, we're not that far off. Armando, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, where to begin? At the beginning. I think this is a Beatles wannabe album.
Well, yeah. Eric Carmen loved the Beatles.
And I mean, a Beatles wannabe in capitals. I mean, comes out in 72. They were signed to Capitol. Who else was signed to Capitol in the U.S. and North America? Let's think about that, ladies and gentlemen, out there.
Well, it's not quite the Knack, which looked like a blatant ripoff.
But
of course, the front album cover has all 4 members up front, kind of like Meet the Beatles.
Yeah. I mean, again, just I grouped all the tracks together. Like I grouped the tracks that Eric Carmen sang on, and Wally Bryson and Dave Smalley. Go all the way. Great single. Like honestly, when I first heard it, I saw it. Bob and I went to see Dark Shadows, the movie, and it was in the opening segment where she's on the bus going into Collinsport. And I honestly thought from the vocal, I thought it was bloody Roy Orbison at first.
Well, I mean, Eric Carmen's
I
a
can
great
hear that.
singer. I'll give him that.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought it was Roy Orbison, and then I'm listening and say, okay, it's not Roy Orbison. Go All the Way is, it's a good pop rocker. I Saw the Light. Meh. I'm sorry. It's all right. Waiting to me is like an updated, extended version of Yesterday. To me. Oh God, don't want to say goodbye. Goodbye. I'm sorry. I Can Remember. I mean, it's an extended orchestral, almost orchestral piece with the different sections to it. I do like it. The Eric Carmen sings 5 tracks on here. Going to the Wally Bryson stuff. Come Around and See Me seems very comical. It just seems like a throwaway, like a comical. When someone throws in a "Que pasa, baby" in the background. No que pasa. Goodbye. Adios, muchacho. That kind of a thing. With You in My Life is like an updated version of When I'm 64.
I heard that too.
I should have mentioned that, but when I hear that song, Armando, I think it's a Kink song off of Face to Face. You got the brass, the tap piano. It just sounds like something off Face to Face.
But the automatic thing for me when I heard it, and I've listened to this album since you gave us the assignment. I've listened to it like 4 times. Like I sat and listened to it, and it was only like a couple of days ago when I heard, With You in My Life. I'm thinking, okay, this is When I'm 64 from Sgt. Pepper. This is just another working of it. Just like it has the same sentiments to me. Dave Smalley's stuff, Rock and Roll, the 2 tracks, Rock and Roll Mama. No, I can't. Get It Moving. Yeah, I Get It Moving off my computer. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it anymore. I've heard it enough. Eric Carmen's tracks stand out. Either the ones he wrote or sang on, they stand out. And to me, if you look at the cover, he's sort of in the foreground, and the other 3 are in the background. So Capitol are already pushing him as the breakout artist in the band. It's like George Michael and Wham. Who was the brainchild of Wham? It was George Michael. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I'd listen to it. Would I go buy it? No. I'm sorry. I can't. I can't even justify spending 99 cents on this, So if I'm going to give it a rating, 1.5.
Ow.
And I don't usually, like, if you guys see me in other shows rating, I usually don't rate albums this harshly, but I just can't. This is like U2 pop for me. I'm sorry. And I did buy pop when it first came out. So,
what did you rate that?
Pop?
Yeah.
Compared to this?
I don't know. What would you rate pop? Just curious.
Back in the day when I bought it in 97, when it came out in March of 97, I would have rated it 8. Today, I like when you guys were doing the U2 show, I listened to it again and I'm like, what? Aside from Discotheque, because that was the breakout single, I thought, what the hell am I listening to? Like, to have a track on there called Mofo. Mofo, no, you didn't. That kind of a thing. It's like
it's a long way from their peak.
It's miles away from Achtung Baby, and I love Achtung Baby.
Well, I rated pop the last on my. It was in my top 10 or whatever it is.
14.
It was number 14.
Yeah. No, I'm so, and I'm not going to belabor the point. I'm just saying that this Raspberry album, aside from maybe Go All the Way, and I can remember. I did notes on this shit here. It's a generic pop album. AM pop, AM radio pop, circa 1972.
That was their market.
Circa 1972. This is the Beatles, all in 1972 for me.
Well, that's what they were trying to go for, so you're right on track.
Pale imitation of it, but
sorry. Well, anything would be. You don't have to say sorry. This is why we're talking about it.
Yeah. No, I
don't care what you got. I don't judging anybody. It's wide open. Let's just talk about it.
I'm just saying, anyone that would use "Que pasa, baby" on their track, it's like, oh my God, oh Dios mío. Like, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not.
Hey, it was the early 70s. Well, all right, Armando, I appreciate that.
Sorry, moving on.
I can hardly wait to get to hear what Reed has to say. Reed, it's all you, baby.
All right, thanks, Grant. All right, so this is the first time I'd ever listened to the Raspberries. I'm not sure I had ever heard of the Raspberries before Grant mentioned them in one of our KISS chats for the Contrarians.
Oh, that's right, because all those songs on the Paul Stanley solo album, all those songs that he did on there sound like Raspberry songs. Well, and I know for a fact that Gene and Paul were big into Raspberries.
That they must be big into the other albums, because I don't hear any of that on this album. So it's as I've said many times, I'm only recently, although it's been 10 years now. When you're old, 10 years doesn't seem like a long period of time.
Couple weeks.
But I listened to nothing but heavy metal for 40 years. And it wasn't until very recently that I started listening to other types of music, and working with these video chats for various groups, I've been turned on to a lot of new music, which I absolutely love. So it's instructive to go back and listen to something and say, oh yeah, there is still new music that I think is crap. And that would be this album. So let me start with PowerPop. So people throw out these terms all the time that maybe they're part of the lexicon, but I have no idea what they mean, right? Like when people were talking about post-punk, I had to read an entire book to find out what post-punk was. I found a wonderful video. There's this guy, I think he's British. Sorry if he's not. He does these videos called Trash Theory. A stupid name, but he has this wonderful video on how PowerPop became PowerPop. I mean, and I watched that and went, oh, so that's what PowerPop is. Okay, I get it. Very heavily Beatles influenced, and the Byrds. Pete Townsend actually coined the term PowerPop. So I was like, okay. And based on that, I was expecting something completely different than what I got on this album. Also, I did not realize that Eric Carmen was the guy who did All by Myself. And I swear to God, I thought that was Karen Carpenter. And this guy's voice to me, he is so similar to Karen Carpenter. His voice is too pretty for rock and roll, which is why he does this AM pop stuff. So start off with Go All the Way, which and again, I tell people I did not listen to radio prior to 1990. So Go All the Way was not a radio track I ever heard, but I may have heard it, bits and pieces of it, in TV shows and things, because when that riff started, I went, oh, I've heard this riff. This is great. It sounds like Free. And then suddenly it sounds like Burt Bacharach. Now, and again, I've got no problem with Burt Bacharach. My parents love Burt Bacharach. That's just not my music, right? That's my parents' generation's pop music. In the 1960s, if you were not listening to Psych, if you weren't listening to Beatles or the hippie music, you were listening to stuff like Burt Bacharach or Tony Bennett. Stuff like that was pop music, right? And that's what this song is. So it starts off free, goes Burt Bacharach, and then it goes into a straight up homage to the Beatles' Please Please Me. I mean, it could not have been a more blatant ripoff of Please Please Me.
Good analogy.
And I was like, what am I listening to here?
Yeah.
And for me, the sum of the parts is much less than I would have thought from, okay, great freestyle riff. Great riff in the style of Free, I should say. It's not really freestyle. And, again, Burt Bacharach, not my thing, but Burt can sing. You know what? I'll take Burt over Eric Carmen. And it's one of those things. You can have all the talent in the world. That does not mean that your music is going to connect with somebody. It's not an insult. He's occupying the wrong space, I think. That All By Myself song, that's where he needed to be. And I apologize to anybody else watching this. My notes are on a computer off to the right here. And if I turn my head, it will literally make
I got
me
my
sick.
notes written down here too. So,
so let's see here. We get to come around and see me. The first thing in my note says, well, so much for hard rock. It's 100% Beatles ripoff. If it wasn't, now I love harmony vocals. I will give this album this. It has some fantastic harmony. That is the only thing really by the end of the album that I actually like. It has some great harmony vocals. This, again, it's 100% Beatles. And in the background, you can hear some really killer finger-picked acoustic lines, but they're mixed way back and they don't really make much of an impact. My note on I Saw the Light is little, yep, there's the Beatles again. By this track, I was really wishing I was listening to Badfinger because that's a much better album.
maybe that.
Rock and Roll Mama, I'm with the group on this one. It's terrible. Said it is so stereotypically 1970s. It's kind of country rock. It's got a stupid lyric. To paraphrase Douglas Adams, it's like wrapping the 70s around a brick and hitting yourself in the head with it.
Yeah, I didn't know if this was honky tonk or was it Dr.
I like that
Hook.
thing.
It's a little bit Stonesy. It's a little bit country.
Sounds like Dr. Hook.
It's a mess.
Waiting. Okay, so the 80s has the power ballad. The 70s has the piano ballad. The AM radio piano ballad, just covered in syrupy strings and piano. And there's only two people that I will listen to that music from, and that's Paul McCartney and Elton John. Everybody else can just get out of my way. And that album, I mean, I was like, oh, I forced myself to listen through it, but I was like, this is not a good song. Which then made it all the weirder that they put With You in My Life immediately after it. What, 2 piano ballads in a row? Who sequenced this? That was not a good idea. And I also said, I wasn't paying attention in 1972, what with being 4 years old and all, but I hope these guys got just as much stick for ripping off the Beatles as Oasis did in 1994. Get it moving.
I don't think they did, to be honest.
I actually appreciate
They deserve it more.
They really do.
Yeah.
I appreciated Get It Moving because it does. I mean, it's a stupid song, but at least it's got some energy to it, right? It introduces guitar again. It's not a third piano ballad in a row. And by now, this album badly needed an infusion of energy. And then we get to, I can't remember. Geez, are we already at the last song?
Yeah, this album's only like 38 minutes long.
Yeah, it's 35 minutes long.
It's another piano ballad. It's big. It points a shiny neon-shaped arrow at Eric Carmen's solo career. And again, He sounds like Karen Carpenter. I'm not even apologizing for that. I'm just saying it straight up. If you just veritoned his voice, just sped it up like 30 milliseconds, he would sound exactly like Karen Carpenter.
Personally, I think it's an insult to Karen Carpenter, but go ahead. I mean,
I don't know. I like Eric Carmen. See, maybe I'm the only one here that gets it.
He would need to have better control of pitch, because that's one of his. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But
at least at the end of the song, it speeds up a little bit. If the album had ended like the song began and it was just like a slow piano ballad through the whole thing, this album would have ended on a total bummer. But at least it adds a little bit of energy. It picks up a little tempo at the end. And I was like, okay, so all I'm really getting out of this song is just how badly Eric Carmen wants to be Paul McCartney. And he is just not hitting that mark. Now, you know, whatever you might say about Sir Paul, he could rock when he was in the mood to rock. And I don't think Eric ever gets there on this album.
Eric gets there, not on this record, though. If you look at side 3, the whole album was just a whole rock album. And even if you get to starting over the final record, it's much more power pop. This is not a good example, but we had to start somewhere.
That's true. We did need to start somewhere.
Right.
I don't even want to say that you can hear the seeds of power pop in this, unless now the Beatles, like pre-Revolver era Beatles or the Byrds, those are kind of like the prototype for power pop. Like the Who's I Can See for Miles.
Yeah, the Who, I think
that's a great power pop tune.
The Who's probably more of I would say they are more of the founders of the power pop than anybody.
Power pop, as I understand it, keys are jangly guitars. Mm-hmm. They're hook oriented, not riff oriented. They've got a lot of harmony vocals, and it's still supposed to be guitar oriented, though. That's the power. And that's what differentiated it from just pop music, which was almost entirely piano based. Mm-hmm. But again, it has some guitars, but the only feature guitar part on this whole album are on the first track and on Get It Moving. And on the first track, it's less than a third of the song that actually has what I would think of as powerful guitars. Mm-hmm. So I was like, yeah, it's much more I feel like this is one of those albums that was intended to please everybody. You're like, okay, the kids will love it because it's rock, and maybe the parents will love it because it's sweet and it has these vocals like Burt Bacharach, and maybe they'll rope in everybody. And apparently that was very successful. At least according to YouTube Music, this first album spent more time in the charts than everything else they ever did combined.
Yeah, as they kept going through their career, they sold less, and less, even though I think the records probably get better. But
a parallel evolution probably to the Sweet when we get there, where they were selling millions of singles, and then when they became a hard rock band, their album sales went way down. Well, but that's a discussion for another day.
There is the saying, just because it's good doesn't mean it's going to sell. I mean, true. There is that saying, right? The only thing I can say about it is, in addition to what I've already said, is that there's power pop that's done, I guess, right, that connects with people, like groups like in the 90s, the group Jellyfish, right, came out with 2 albums. The second one, Spilt Milk, really took off. They were compared to Queen, the Beach Boys, and other artists, but you could tell that these 2 were tunesmiths. You could tell that they knew how to write a catchy melody and construct good melodic, memorable songs. It's, and it's a shame that they couldn't continue. They imploded after the second album. But this album, there's, aside from the first track, there's really nothing that's memorable about it, to me, anyways. So there's power pop that's done right, and then there's power pop that's done wrong, or that just misses the mark. And this is one of those albums for me that misses the mark.
Yeah, I meant to say something about Eric Carmen singing. I think there's an idea out there in the world that Eric Carmen is a good singer. In the song I Can Remember, the long song at the end of the album, he's all over the place with pitch. He really struggles to get pitch right, and he occasionally has to like dip up to the pitch. And there are singers that do that a lot that I like, because I like other things about their voice. Like Michael Stipe from REM does that a lot. It's very difficult for him to nail the pitch in a really complicated melody. But I think Eric Carmen's singing is really sloppy on this record. You
mean he has to kind of rein it in?
Like he has to start lower and kind of go up to find the pitch. Like he doesn't nail it right away. He just kind of works his way to it. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to describe, but I know what it is because I can't sing, and so I would have to do that. But there are other singers who do that. But for some reason with Eric Carmen, I just really felt like, especially on this album, that it just seemed like his vocals were just kind of sloppy for songs that seemed like they were built for a better singer. That's just my observation.
I'll have to go back and listen to it. I've never really noticed that.
At the end of the day, I'm also giving it 1.5 stars. And honestly, I feel like that's a fairly generous rating, just because I love the opening part of, now I can't even remember the title of that stupid song. The first track, Go All the Way.
Yeah.
I like the opening part of Go All the Way enough that I'm like, yeah, that's super memorable. I can see why it was on radio back in the day. After this chat, not only will I never listen to this album again, I will probably never think about its existence.
And I thought I was going to have the lowest rating. And to be honest with you, I gave it 2.5 just for the fact that it is an AM pop record. I mean, that's really the only reason. It just sort of got 2.5. I thought 2 is probably more accurate, just kind of by default. Because I normally like that kind of a record.
It's just a missed starter from maybe track 2. Like, I mean, it's just they had something going. They had something going good with Go All the Way. Maybe they should have just maybe put Go All the Way near the end, so like you're forced to listen to the entire album and get to the end, because that's what they usually do. Like they leave the one song or the one single near the end or at the end. But I mean, look, I grew up with 3 older sisters. AM radio was on in my house every day in some form. So AM radio, FM radio, you heard all. You got to hear a good pop, bad pop, and everything in between. And this is bad pop. I'm sorry. It's just
I still wonder
of a record.
People who were just listening to the radio and heard the single of Go All the Way, and then they bought the album and listened to the rest of it. What did they think? Were they like, oh, wow, this is exactly what I thought I would hear based on that wonderful single that I loved on the radio? Or were they like, I thought this would be very different than it is.
I think
this album reeks. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anyone off. I apologize. This album reeks of a Beatles ripoff. I'm sorry. It reeks. Like it stinks of a Beatles ripoff. Like it's that blatant. It's even unapologetically So, it's just no, can't do it. But I mean,
All right.
Yeah, I
everyone
think their
has their
sales
opinion.
after this, for the subsequent albums, kind of said it all about
Yeah,
how people
they
felt
went down.
when they got the first album.
Maybe.
Like maybe they weren't going to fall for it again.
Probably.
I wouldn't base everything on the first record because as they progressed, they got better. But see, I'm able to hear all past all that. I think all the Eric Carmen stuff is brilliant. But
Now,
it's a Beatles ripoff, but that was the whole point.
Now, I am old enough I remember when this came out. I remember going to the department store or whatever in the record department with my parents and seeing this record when it came out. It's 1972, I was 8. So I remember hearing Go All the Way on the radio, and I just always assumed that the rest of this album was as good as that.
Oh, it's not.
And it isn't.
No.
So...
Well, that's what was so great about just throwing this record out here, just because it was the early beginnings of the whole power pop thing. Because by the time the Raspberries broke up, power pop really hadn't taken off yet. Everybody always cite, Badfinger, Raspberries, Big Star. So, I thought I'd throw it out there. I knew that it would be an interesting discussion.
When I was a kid, I associated the Raspberries with Todd Rundgren, because for some reason when I think back to that time, I think about the Raspberries album being around the same time as Runt and the Ballad of Todd Rundgren.
It's not that far off.
And I guess I sort of thought Raspberries would be similar.
No, but it's similar. I mean, Todd Rundgren,
Yeah, I mean, Todd Rundgren, the name of the album, I've got it from Rundgren with Hello, It's Me.
Something Anything.
Anything. Yeah, I have the album. That, I mean, it's broken up into 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good power pop album.
Yeah, there's some power pop on that record.
There's power pop.
I Saw the Light, definitely is power pop.
There's experimental, there's but it's done in a catchy, memorable way. Sorry, what happened to this? I have no freaking idea. I'm sorry.
I kept thinking about Cheap Trick, because people talk about Cheap Trick being power pop, and I kept thinking, oh, this is miles away from Cheap Trick.
Yeah, no. For me, Cheap Trick were a pop rock band, and
yeah.
I mean,
well, Cheap Trick were a lot better at producing albums. I don't think the Raspberries were an album band by any means.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But at the same time, too, as you had the Raspberries coming out, you also had ELO coming out with albums too. I mean, not far behind. I mean, were Raspberries before ELO?
No Answer is 1973, isn't it? So that's only 1 year.
Just 1 year before.
So,
and even though that first ELO album is pretty spotty album, it's much better than this.
But you know what I mean? I mean, you want to talk about Beatles influence? Look at Jeff Lynne. I mean, he wears his Beatle influence on his bloody sleeve, and I mean, and he does it right. I mean, like, listen to A New World's Record. I love that album. That album was just like, whoa, out of the gate, boom, boom, boom. Every song is memorable. Every song is catchy. It may not be a single, to be released, but I mean, bloody hell. I mean, it's that good of an album, but I mean,
yeah. And my wife got me into Badfinger, and Badfinger is so Beatlesque that apparently many people thought it was secretly the Beatles, like they had gotten back together and just didn't want to admit it was the Beatles. There's
that the rumor is that, or the myth or rumor is that Paul McCartney was Badfinger on the first album. That was all him. And I mean, he wrote, come and get it. If you want it, here it is, come and get it. So, I mean, there's that myth, but I don't think,
Nah, he's not on there. That's just a myth. He wrote that one song.
Yeah,
So they
he's
were on
not on there,
Apple,
nudge,
you know.
nudge, wink, wink. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
but still, I mean, even Badfinger for what they, I mean, they were good. You know,
Those songs are so much more memorable.
So much.
Yeah.
yeah. It's the hook, right? Those songs had the hooks that drew you in. I mean, and you know, it's just. I'm sorry, this album wasn't.
no
it.
one has to say sorry. We're just reviewing it. Everybody acts
It's
like
the
it's a
Canadian
problem.
in me. It's the Canadian in me. I apologize all the time.
We're doing this as for an archaeological. I don't know. We're just putting it down on video.
Okay, well, can we forget the archaeological dig and just move on to? I mean,
Well, just think there's nowhere to go but up.
I'm like,
Right?
you would think.
let's see.
Well, everything after this is up. If you
Right.
look at the best of, it's top notch. I'm just telling you. The
Say
Capital Collectors Series Raspberries comp is unbelievable.
So in 1972, we had Black Sabbath's Volume 4.
Yeah.
We had Deep Purple. I think Fireball was 72.
No, it was Machine Head.
It was Machine Head at
yeah.
72.
Fireball was 71. Yeah.
We had Led Zeppelin coming out with.
Was that Houses of the Holy?
Yeah, that was 73. They weren't out yet. They were still recording.
You know, we're
Yeah.
Led
So
Zeppelin 2.
The hard rock world was
3.
kicking butt.
Right.
You know, Bowie was
4.
putting out Hunky Dory, which was a commercial flop, although it's an amazing album.
Yeah.
There was some fantastic music in 1972.
Well, I mean, and Bowie released Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust.
73, right?
72. 73 was Aladdin Sane.
Oh, okay.
Something like, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there was great music to be had. You just had to look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Very true. I mean,
That's right, Ernesto. It's a musical exploration. We can't always review great records all the time. If we sat here and reviewed 5-star records all the time, it would be boring. So I'm just throwing stuff out. I'm throwing stuff out to you guys, and we're just have at it.
Ernesto said something earlier about that Eric Carmen reminds me of Leo Sayer. And I just wanted to say, even though Leo Sayer's records are kind of weird, Leo Sayer's a much better singer than Eric Carmen, I think.
I can't get past his perm.
Yeah.
He had a hell of
I don't
a
think he's an
perm.
important artist, but I think he can sing.
Well, didn't Leo Sayer have a much better career over in the UK?
He did appear on Alan Parsons' album.
Yeah, but he was way bigger over there than he ever was here.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, When I Need You and You Make Me Feel Like Dancing. Okay.
Those were big hits here, though.
Well, yeah, they made a lot of money.
Not great songs, but they're performed well.
Well, I mean,
for what they are.
I don't have a problem with them. They're all right.
Well, that's just it, right? I mean, music is different, you know, to different people. I mean,
for crying out, Star, get your years together, for crying out loud.
Yep. I was looking up Montrose. I was like, okay, Montrose was 73. So
okay, yeah, I was wondering.
I can't
about
compare
that too.
Can't compare Montrose to this, but 73 was a great year too.
I mean, other than Big Star and the Raspberries, no one was doing Beatlesque type of stuff.
No. And then 73, you had, you know, Queen came out with the debut album then, and all that. There was more rock stuff coming out in 73 and 74 and stuff. But I mean,
yeah.
But no one wanted to hear this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, 72, you also had Schools Out from Alice Cooper. Right? And, you know, I mean, you know, we're a year away from, at that point, we're a year away from Tubular Bells, Mike Oldfield. So, I mean, it's the conceptual albums. So, I mean, you need a bit of a stopgap, right? And this was it, I guess. So,
well, I guess this wasn't very successful, but I just thought we'd look at it. Not that it was anything. I knew it would be interesting.
I'm glad we started here. I'm glad I heard this finally.
It was successful in promoting discussion, Grant.
Yeah.
And that's all we want. I don't care if we like it or dislike it. As long as we're talking music, that's all I care about. But next month we're looking at the Plimsoll's first album. It's a lot different than this record. I mean,
That's
you want
another album
guitar.
where I only know the single.
It's a lot of guitars. So
yeah,
You see, I've never heard of the. I don't remember the name. I've never heard of the Plimsolls. I mean,
that's
maybe
what.
if I heard the single.
Have you ever heard of the band called The Nerves?
No.
You ever hear of Peter Case, solo artist?
Peter Case.
God,
Probably
I'm
heard
just
the
going
name,
into
but probably not the album.
We're just going obscure here on this channel.
Mhm.
I know that there's a distortion pedal called the Plimsoll. That's as close as I can get. But I'm looking forward, based on the fact that there's a distortion pedal named after them, they better be some hard rockers. That's all I've
it's
got.
power pop. It's not like the Raspberries. It's a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
the Plimsolls are power pop, total power pop.
All right. I hope we eventually follow this this series far enough that one day we get to Fountains of Wayne, which is my favorite modern power pop band.
Well, I would do the first Fountains of Wayne album. We can do that. We can do that after Plimsolls if you want.
It depends on if you want to jump around or you want to go.
I don't think it matters.
All right.
I'm not going chronologically. I'm just throwing stuff out. I'd say let's just do Plimsolls and then do Fountains of Wayne.
Sure, I'll do that. I'll do the first.
The first Fountains of Wayne, though.
Utopia Parkway is a better album, but I'll do the first album.
Nah, I like the first one better.
So
but it's power pop, late power pop, but that works.
I guess this is a unanimous pan of the album, Raspberries, or
well, I still give it 3 stars. I know what brilliance there is later.
So it gets 3 stars and 3 raspberries.
I mean, that's all it gets. It's not a great debut.
I thought about going forward and listening to the other 3 albums, and I just decided not to. I didn't want it to mix me up, so I just opted.
The other albums were better.
See, I was going to make a joke about maybe this Carmen guy should go off and record music all by himself, but I decided not to.
And he did.
Here's a question. Eric Carmen did his solo debut, what, 76, 75?
75, I think.
For Arista.
It's 75.
My dad had it.
Did he have any other songs, hits between All By Myself and Hungry Eyes in 87?
There are 2 hits on that record, and now I can't hang on a sec. I've got a tab for him. Never Gonna Fall in Love Again.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now that you said that title, I remember that.
That's on a later record, though.
Sounds like Carol.
Oh, no, it's on
right. That's on that one.
And That's Rock and Roll was kind of a minor hit.
And his second album was called Boats Against the Current. And I believe that it did not have a hit single from it. Because I remember it was hyped really big.
Okay.
But I don't think there were any hits on it.
Well, yeah, I'm surprised David didn't get other writers to write for him because he was famous for doing that.
He had 3 singles off of this. She Did It that hit number 23 on the U.S. Billboard. Boats Against the Current, which hit 88, and Marathon Man didn't chart.
Okay.
And then there were 2 more albums after that. Okay.
I don't think they did anything at all.
So Clive Davis didn't get as much money out of them as I think he thought he was going to.
I guess he thought if he could sign Barry Manilow, he could get, another Barry Manilow and just cash in on it.
Oh, man. Eric Carmen is so no Barry Manilow.
Yeah, talk about somebody who can sing.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Goodness, Todd, for God's sakes, man.
No, I just said, I hope, don't misunderstand me. I just said Barry Manilow can sing.
Yeah, no, he can sing.
I think Eric Carmen's great. You're just not listening to the right stuff. You got to listen to the other stuff.
You got to listen to the good notes. It's like Billy Gibbons describes playing guitar and says, you just have to find the good notes and stick with those. There you go. That's a philosophy that works for so many things in life.
Right.
Coming from someone who taught Jimi Hendrix, I would take that quote as gospel. I
I
mean,
don't think he taught Jimmy.
he apparently gave him some lessons from what I heard.
Well, I know Jimmy gave Billy Gibbons that pink Strat that he still has. That's all I know. Jimmy said that he thought Billy Gibbons is like one of the best up and coming guitar players. That's what he did.
Actually, he said that about, yeah. Hendrix also said that about Terry Kaff from Chicago.
Yeah.
That
I love the story that Billy's band, his pre-ZZ Top band, were opening for Jimi Hendrix, and half of their set list were Jimi Hendrix covers. Like, man, it takes some stones to get up before Jimi Hendrix and play Foxy
Yeah.
Lady.
Yeah, no, it's true.
You know how we like to show album covers on this channel.
Yeah.
Show you an album cover. This might have been the reason why things didn't sell.
Oh, that's right. I always forget about that one.
What the hell is that?
That's Eric and some model.
And he's helping me with a bag? Like, what the?
Oh, you're literally killing me.
I can't tell whether he's pushing her down or trying to help her up.
You know, it's probably.
I don't know, but
best
he's
not to
got nice
examine it too
shoes.
closely.
I don't know what she's doing, but she doesn't look like she's comfortable.
What the hell? I mean,
that was his last Arista album.
I can see why.
Well,
Man,
it's
it's,
not the best cover, I'll give you that.
Oh
And
my-
this isn't really a good cover for a best of album.
You know what though? I hate to keep picking on the guy, but I'm going to pick on him some more. He can't sell a rocker. He just can't sell it. I mean, look at that.
How about this? Since we're talking a little bit, this was on the best of album. That might be an import. I see nipple, I think.
Wow. He
That's
looks
Better than
like
the last one.
like
He
a
looks-
skinnier David Hasselhoff.
No, he looks like a younger Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton. I see Joe Lynn Turner a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it's
can
in
see
the
a little
cheeks.
Turner there.
It's in
But
the
I don't
cheeks.
think his album covers were very good.
Well, these days we call that photoshopping to death. It's like,
Look at this one. This is like his third Arista record.
That's the second one.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the second one, yeah.
So he was Rick Springfield for a while.
I don't know if they knew
They
what
were
to do
trying
with
a
him.
few different things.
Oh, Star says, my eyes, my eyes.
oh my God. I just don't know what to say to that.
Ernesto Hendricks said Rory Gallagher was the shit.
Well, Roy
Ernesto,
Gallagher was.
What did you mean about Valley Girl movie? I'm just curious. Was there an Eric Carmen song in there?
I don't remember. But with Jimi Hendrix, I remember I watched a Chicago documentary on Netflix, and the story was that they were on a flight together, he and Terry Kaff, and he was telling Terry Kaff that Hendrix told Kaff that he's a much better guitar player than Hendrix was, and that he should really, develop more, and just, he wished, that he could play as well as Kaff was playing at that point.
I don't know about that.
And
I
Kaff
think
was
Jimmy's
like, oh my
brilliant.
God, like, are you serious? He says, yeah, I'm not as good as you are. And okay.
Oh, what did I just do? Hold on. I'm trying to get you back, Armando.
There we go.
But this record, I mean, if you're looking at anything and you would want to go down the rabbit hole, even though don't listen to anybody on this channel because they hate it. But this is great.
Those Capitol compilations from the 90s are usually pretty solid.
So this looks like the Olsons with Joe Lynn Turner and Hervé Villachez.
This looks like an Osmonds cover that went wrong or something.
Well, yeah.
I just
When the Osmonds look cooler than you do, there's a problem.
Yeah, well,
Well, I did say that the cover went wrong. So I mean,
it
was
is what it is.
Well,
Yeah.
the Raspberries were just a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll.
What were they?
They oh,
like, I'm sorry.
they look like Mexican polka dance singers. Let me bring that back up.
You know,
Yeah.
look,
I guess,
the-
maybe.
they're all like saying, take that photo quick. You know, I mean, we're out of here after this.
They don't look happy to be around each other in that photo,
No.
do they?
Well, they're needed on Fantasy Island.
No, I don't.
These guys will be here all week, folks. Just they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, catch the 9 o'clock show.
That's the 9 o'clock show. We'll have an intermission. We'll be back. Well, based
Okay.
on that whole,
I gotta log off. So,
well, we're done. So I gave it a 3. Todd
it's
gave
been
it
a
a
gas.
1.5,
2.5, 2.5.
2.5.
Very
Reed
generous.
gave it a 1.5.
Yeah, I give it
Yeah.
a 1.5.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
throwing in the half for pity. All
All
right,
right, I appreciate it.
I gotta go. I gotta hit my inhaler, guys.
All right,
it was
see
fun.
ya.
Keep
Talk
It
rocking.
to
was
you later.
fun.
See you, Reed.
So the next thing, even I don't know if you guys are interested. This might have tainted your whole world,
What?
but we're going to look at the Plimsoll's first album. So you have a month to do that. If you
I'm
want
up for
to do it.
that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. I'm okay with that.
All right. Since we've lost Reed, I will. We'll do that in September sometime. I'll just send out a date or something. We'll just go with it. And if anybody else is watching the show, I see some people are watching. You want to get involved, just let me know. We've always got space available. But I do like it, 4 people on one show. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna.
There's BM Bolt. Good evening.
Yeah.
Just getting done with dinner. We'll try to watch this and listen to some Raspberries.
Uh,
Byron, I would
Myron, watch
give it a
this
shot.
first.
Watch it first. Don't do it.
More Friday nights. What are you talking about, Ernesto?
He's talking about the free-for-all chat on the Friday nights.
Oh, yeah, that'll
That's
be
next
week from
Friday, right?
next Friday.
Okay.
4 people is good. You're right. I think 4 people's the magic number. Maybe. I don't know. Todd and I can go off. We do pretty good. Todd and I have done so many shows together that. Well, Ernesto, it'll be next week, next Friday, I think. I need to look. Unless something's
Yeah, it's. I think you do it every second Friday. So.
I know, but one of these Fridays I'm going to have to move it because something's happening. I can't remember. Oh, I'm going to go meet some people in Marion, Ohio. So I might do it on a Saturday, but it'll still be called Friday Night Chat. Byron, Cheap Trick is PowerPop, or at least those first, 4 albums are, but I think a lot of their stuff still is. Definitely. We'll probably hit Cheap Trick sometime, maybe.
I think a lot of people have their own definition of what is power pop.
Star, you like the free-for-all discussions. I appreciate that. They're fun because we don't have any, we just shoot the shit. Byron, a smiley face. Yes. Well, this was almost a free-for-all discussion. We don't want to be too regimented around here,
Sure enough. True enough.
In fact, this is kind of jumping the gun, but Todd, I watched your episode with Marathon.
Uh-huh.
I thought you did a phenomenal job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
that
Thanks,
is
you guys.
very, I'm not being critical. We're a lot more looser on this channel. I've never seen anything quite so regimented when you have a gentleman going through, yes, well, we're going through modal and I believe all the musical,
that was really
musical
helpful
theory
because-
stuff. I'm going, holy shit, what are we doing?
Because I was just like, okay, well, I know where the key changes are, but I don't know what they are, and I was trying to research it, and so I was happy that he knew what they were.
I was going, boy, oh boy, this channel runs on a whole other level.
Yeah, it does.
We're down here on Grants Rock Warehouse. Rush fans is up there. I can barely talk. Those guys. And Todd, check out Todd's episode where he was hosting. It was very good.
Thank you.
Well, you did a great job.
I was worried because I get very emotional when I talk about Marathon because I love it so much.
I get it. But anyway, anybody around here checking this out, go check out Rush Fans and the Marathon episode with Todd hosting. It's really good, but those guys are hardcore.
They know their stuff. And the
But
ladies too.
think about it. All they do is talk Rush, though. We talk a lot of stuff here. So,
but the thing is there are people that are fanatical about their favorite bands, but they're so serious to a fault. It's almost like you're afraid to say anything.
Look at that.
Thank you, Byron.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Armando. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, some people are fans of certain groups, and that to such an extent that you're afraid to say anything of a different opinion because you don't want to piss them off or upset them in any way. And it's like, okay, these discussions are supposed to be enlightening, entertaining.
Right.
They're not supposed to start off World War III. You know what I mean? In terms of
well, yeah, but I want, at least on this show, I want everybody to be, I'd rather you let it rip. Because,
I think I pretty much did on my review.
I think that's good. That's what makes a good discussion. All the people that are all from the Contrarians that all get together and talk. Everybody can talk amongst each other. No one judges each other. Everyone appreciates what they have to say.
That U2 show was a perfect example of that because there were opinions all over the place.
Yeah.
You mean last night's episode?
Yeah, all of them. But last night was
several of them where I let it rip
with the rankings. Yeah.
I've watched every one of them. I was in the live chat for most of them. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, but that's what makes the shows interesting is you have different opinions. You bounce them off one another and see what the response is.
But the beautiful thing about everybody that comes on and does these shows, and everybody respects each other. We can joke with each other. No one has any hard feelings. And we always have great discussions. And that's what's so great about the whole community,
Yeah.
So whether you like the Raspberries record or not, hey, I had no idea who would like what. You could have had someone on here that thought it was absolutely brilliant. You never know. And then, if you look at the U2 episodes, Todd hates Zooropa, but Davy loves it.
Yeah.
And we all just have a great discussion, and it's just a beautiful thing.
My honest opinion, they peaked with Achtung Baby, and they started to peter out with Zooropa.
I like both of them, though.
I agree with that, but I think they had a rebound.
I agree with Todd.
I think they had a mid-2000s rebound.
Atomic Bomb and...
Yeah. And I have a copy of that coming, by the way.
I saw that you got one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. I found it for like $10, the deluxe version. But every group has those peaks and valleys. I mean, some more than others. You tell me what group has a catalog that of that is that consistent. That
XTC.
Okay, I said corrected. But
never put out a bad record. Always progressed, and I have to admit, I think they always improved. I think, even though I love Black Sea, I love Drums and Wires, but they kept getting better. They kept,
Yeah, I eventually will get myself a copy of None Such, and I have Lemons and Oranges, I believe it's called Oranges and Lemons.
XTC never put out a bad record ever.
Yeah,
None Such. When I started to I always liked it, but when I really started to dive into it for that Contrarians episode, I was blown away by it. The more I listened to it, I must have listened to it about 15 or 16 times. In 3 days.
We're in the minority because I spent a day at A&M Records back in '91, who distributed XTC. They were signed to, as a distribution. And the A&R guy that I hung out with for the day said, none such didn't it didn't have the hit that they needed to, get the major hit. Like it didn't have, hey God, hey God, on it, a song of that caliber. So he was disappointed because they have to promote what they have to work with, right? And it didn't hit with the public at large, which I think is disappointing because it's a good album.
I think XTC was a little bit too quirky for the American market.
Yeah. Songs like Ballad of Peter Pumpkinhead and The Disappointed, which is my favorite track on that album. It didn't hit, and it should have.
Mm-hmm.
There's
some power pop on XTC albums.
You could talk about whose fault that was, but you were talking right to the guy, so that might have been rude.
Well, they wouldn't tour.
Yeah.
And Faisal, his name was Faisal, and our guy said if a band isn't going to tour or isn't going to promote their album, then what are you going to do? As a record company, they can only do so much, right? I've said this before. It's three parts for me. It's the songs, the artist's ability they're wanting to tour, and then it's the record company promotion. If any one of those areas falter, they're gone. The touring, the promotion cycle for the album is wasted because you can't get it back really, once it's gone. So
right.
But what do I know?
But I love XTC. Never put out a bad record.
I like XTC myself. So
there you go, guys, kids, audience, ladies and gentlemen. That was our review on the Raspberries and XTC.
Sorry.
And no,
sorry.
This is what it doesn't matter to me. I could talk this shit all day. But next month we're going to look at the Plimsoll's first album. I don't know. I'll get together with these guys later and determine a date. Just keep your eye out on, subscribe, like. Thank Ernesto. Appreciate that. Yes, thank you very much. It was a fun episode. And with these gentlemen, you never know what you're going to get. We might like
always
it.
Get more.
They might not like it. And that's what's fun. If we liked everything, these shows would be boring. So,
true enough.
Anyway, I want to thank Todd, Armando. I appreciate you guys coming on. Oh, before we go off, is there anything you guys need to plug real quick before? Because we're going like an hour and a half, so we need to. But is there anything you need to plug or anything before we?
You guys already talked about Rush fans, so I'm good. There was Grant and I's show about Guadalcanal Diary. I really like.
Yeah, I plugged that, even though it's kind of out of date, but people can find it. I almost
sorry, Armando. Go ahead.
No. I keep cutting people off. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, for me, we got a date to tape the new the next the Curse of the Collector episode. It's gonna be taped on the 20th. On Ryan's channel, we are going to be doing the next episode of Top 5 Prince songs. We're going to cover 2000s and 2010s because it's a short catalog at that point. On Rock Daydream Nation, I'm going to be doing an episode with Peter Kerr on the Rolling Stones' Exile on Main Street, top 5 songs from that album. I'm going to do another show with him. That'll be on August 12th here, 13th in Australia, because, they're ahead of day, right? So it's going to be done.
There's somewhere. I can never keep
it. There's somewhere. And we're doing another episode on Rock Daydream Nation of songs from the 2000s, best songs from the 2000s. I believe that's the topic on the 27th. And and I think,
and then Armando, you and I have a show.
Yeah, on the 9th, right?
I think.
Yeah.
I don't have every time I think I'm prepared, I come on this show and I never bring my calendar with me.
Yeah, no, guys, it's going to be fun. Grant's going to pick my brain and find out what makes me tick, and that's going to be scary.
Yeah, I'm going to interview.
So, it's going
to pull a Davy. I hope I can do it.
It's going to be a blast, guys.
It'll be
Just
fun.
tune in. It's going to be fun.
But there's all kinds of stuff coming down the pike, so keep tuning in and subscribe and all that good stuff, because I'd like to at least get 200 subscribers someday. Strive for something. Takes a long time.
Happen.
Well, yeah, whatever. I'm not doing it for that. All I want to do is just talk music with people. That's all it is.
You'll be fun. It'll happen.
Yeah, it'll be fine. There's no rush. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate everything. It's been a great discussion. We probably haven't turned anybody onto the Raspberries, but hey, you can go out and check it out. You might look at it differently. Like I said, I give it a 3. Is it great? What is great is great. What is bad is bad. So anyway, gentlemen, I thank you and everybody who got on the chat, Star, Ernesto, Byron, I appreciate your comments. And we'll see you. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Have a good night.